Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. A journey across a dystopian future America, following a team of military embedded journalists as they race against time to reach DC before rebel factions descend upon the White House. Yes, folks, this is my raw reaction review for Civil War. What's going on, everybody? And yes, not a horror film. No, not a traditional horror film, I guess is more what I was trying to say. I got a chance to check out the new Alex Garland film Civil War tonight in IMAX, thanks to the good folks over at A24 for sending me there. And yeah, I gotta say, I was really interested in this. This was something that I know isn't something that we'd normally cover on this channel, but I figured because it's Alex Garland and it is A24, both having large, bodies of work that have involved the horror space, I figured that I wanted to give it a shot. And plus, when A24 asks you to go check out a movie, you're not going to say no, am I right? And to be real, my curiosity as to what this was going to be far extends just the fact that it is Alex Garland. No, it is the fact that this is reportedly A24's biggest budgeted film, coming in at an estimated $50 million. Some reports have said 75, but I think the bigger one is 50, so we're going to go with that. And yeah, I just didn't really know what to expect from that. A24 has been very public about them needing to kind of step up their game and kind of get into the big leagues, per se. Start matching things like Universal and Paramount and all these other large studios when it comes to big budgeted films, so they can appeal to a broader audience, so their theory goes. And to be honest, I thought it was an interesting choice of all directors to go with Alex Garland. Now, he's no stranger to A24. Now, he's produced a few films under them. And yeah, some of them being really great. One of them, Men, being interesting, to say the least. No, if I was a betting man, I would have thought that they would have entrusted their first major budgeted film with a director like Ari Aster, Barry Jenkins, I mean, even the Daniels. I thought that they would maybe want to spin the dice on them, considering how much money their films have made. Not to say that Alex Garland's movies have not been successful, they just have a tendency to be a bit more niche and not so broad and expansive as some of those other directors' films have been. On top of that, you have kind of a controversial topic, especially in our country today, with this kind of being, again, more or less a version of Civil War. I mean, that's precisely what it is, but it's completely made up, completely fictional. And yeah, they are kind of pitting factions and things together, putting people's political beliefs right up front in this film, and really just kind of almost giving us a taste of our own medicine as far as just what we could be headed into if things don't change very soon. So with all those cards on the table and the odds ever so stacked against A24 with this one, how was the film? I freaking love this movie. God, it feels so good to say that after what Men was, which I get it. A lot of people might like that movie. It just was not my cup of tea. But this film is so well-rounded. Everything from the cast to the story and just the overall approach when it comes to how A24 and Alex Garland decided to tackle this film. Now, I think the best thing about this movie is, yes, you can tell there's a budget increase here. This is a very wide in scope, large budget picture, but it still does not leave those A24 roots. It still seems like this is a filmmaker's studio, and I feel like Alex Garland's hands are all over this project. It doesn't feel like anything has necessarily been compromised. I think that this is very much one of the best showings I've seen in a long time of just a symbiotic relationship between a filmmaker, a visionary, and a studio. And I really, really loved watching this movie in IMAX. I think that that is also one of those spots where you're really going to see the money pop out on screen here, because nothing looks cheap. Nothing looks stale. Nothing looks out of place. This film really is firing on all cylinders. And what a breath of fresh air that is to say, especially when it's a studio that I love and support like A24, actually being able to accomplish this kind of middle ground that we've all been expecting from our Disneys, our Paramounts, and our Universals. It seriously blows my mind that they were able to accomplish this for me. Diving into specifics here, I want to talk about the cast, especially Kirsten Dunst, who I haven't seen her in a film in quite some time. I cannot lie, don't remember the last time I actually saw her in a starring role. And she is a part of an ensemble here, but she really brings a unique rawness to the character of Lee. I think that one of my favorite aspects to her is that she comes off as a bit of a hard ass through most of the film, but really softens up as the movie progresses and you really see the human side to her without her kind of losing her edge. And I think that that is just a really tough thing to do, especially for an actress who, is probably going to unfortunately get a lot more criticism from people and, just people in general because of the way they're trying to portray themselves as being a bit more stern, a bit more forceful, especially in today's society. It's so easy for people to just point their finger and say, oh, this is woke, this is garbage, when in all reality it is not. She is definitely playing somebody who has been through a lot, who's seen a lot. She is a front lines war photographer, and they really lean into just what she has seen over this vast career that she's had. And now that she's kind of seeing this stuff in her own backyard, you see the effects, you see the toll that it takes on her, but not just her, even her supporting cast here, who I gotta say, I absolutely loved everybody who, was a part of this kind of ensemble we have here, especially Wagner Moura as Joel. This guy, I mean, I remember him from Narcos. He was great in that, but holy cow, this is a character. I fucking love Joel in this movie. He is charismatic, he's funny, but he has some moments in here that you just see him crumble. And he delivers one of the best lines in the film towards the end of it. And I absolutely ate this guy's performance up all the way across. And again, I think the chemistry between him and Kirsten Dunst was great. And it's not a romantic thing at all. No, they are longtime colleagues. You can see there's a level of respect there and understanding of everybody's trauma and just what they've been through, the shit that they have seen together. And it's harrowing. It really is just humbling and harrowing to see these actors perform together. And I gotta say, Stephen McKinley Henderson, you will have seen him in things like Dune. Obviously, he's been in things like Lady Bird and Lincoln, Fences. Like these are all films that he's been in, and you will recognize his face when you see him. He is seriously one of the biggest hearts of the film. Like he has some of the funnier lines. He's not necessarily a comedic relief character, but he is the older one, and they like to poke fun at that. And I just thought that he was kind of the heart and soul of this group. Very wise, very willing to guide these people and show them just a little bit of the ropes. And I thought that that was also very touching. And the last person that I really want to kind of lay some praise to here. There are a few other actors who pop up in this film that, I mean, like we see Jesse Plemons in the trailer. Absolutely terrifying, and that's all I will say. Great performance, but that's Jesse Plemons. He's great. But really, the one that stands out for me here is probably Cailee Spaeny. I've never seen her in anything before. She plays kind of a younger journalist who kind of attaches herself to the group, and she absolutely knocked it out of the park. I mean, holy cow, she really acclimates well. She doesn't come off as annoying. She doesn't come off as kind of like just trying to insert herself. She feels natural. She puts herself in a lot of vulnerable spots, especially towards the middle part of the film. There are some sequences that we see that she's kind of also pseudo playing the audience here, where she's taking this all in just as we are. And yeah, I thought that this whole ensemble was really my highest praise I can give this film at the moment. I honestly thought they all crushed it, and they all worked together so well. Jumping from the cast, I do want to talk a little bit about just the visuals and the direction here. Alex Garland is no slouch when it comes to using CGI, but he is one of those directors that I think completely understands how to use it and when it's appropriate. And I really think that you can see his best work on screen when it comes to his visuals and his use of, CG and practical effects, because I think that this is a really strong melding of it. There are shots that I couldn't tell if it was CG or if it was real. There are obviously some that come off more real than others. One of them involving fire that is not the big fire scene. That's all I'll say. There is one towards the beginning that's very small, and coming off of some films that just cannot execute fire without making it look like PS2 graphics. I I can't tell. I can't tell if this was a body double. I mean, it would have to have been CGI. Otherwise, Jesus Christ, what did they do? You will know the scene when you see it. But more than that, there are elements to this when obviously we're dealing with war and people, getting into gunfights and having to deal with that, and just the way that the action is shot and the way that these gunfights are presented through the lens, literally and figuratively, of a war journalist who has to stay hands off. They can't get involved. They have to take pictures and document, and that is all they are there for. They will watch people get shot and bleed out and, literally be on death's door, and they're not going to touch them. They're not going to get involved. They aren't there to fight. They are there to document. And it adds for some very intense moments and some seriously gruesome and grueling, like, just sequences that they will live in my brain for a while. And I was very, very impressed with the approach, and honestly super surprised with the approach that he took to not only shooting the film, but choosing to present it. This goes in a few different directions than I honestly expected when I walked in. I thought that this was more or less going to be a film where we're jumping around to a lot of people and a lot of groups, but no, we stay with our central, caravan of people, and that's who we are with through the entire film, and getting to really immerse ourselves into what these folks are doing and really live their lives day by day through this horrific event. Again, the word that keeps coming to mind is harrowing. I thought that this was seriously intense, and I honestly am at a loss for words. I loved it that much, guys. I really, really recommend this. I'm giving it a must see, clearly. But yeah, I think that Civil War, it's a rare movie. Again, it's something that I'm really, really pleased with how they've started off here with A24 and kind of these approach to bigger budget filmmaking. Are there some drawbacks? Yes, and I'm going to get into that. Even with this being a must-see, I do have to admit there's a couple of choices towards the end of this film that I do feel kind of take the wind out of the sails a little bit. And I personally wasn't a big fan of it. I kind of loved everything leading up to it, but it just, for a film that's so personal and so raw, it really felt a bit quick. And I think there's some messaging behind that personally, but it's tough for me to say because it is a spoiler, but it is one of those things where I just said to myself, I don't know if that necessarily worked for me. But I mean, the rest of the film is just so good that I can easily forgive it. But I do have to be honest and admit there's a choice towards the third act here that I just wasn't too crazy about. As is always going to happen when you deal with subject matter like this, there's a lot of politics in here. I personally think that they handle this in the best way that they can. They're not picking a side. They're very down the middle. But I know that's going to be an issue for some. There are going to be people who walk away from this and call it woke liberal trash. It certainly is not, but I mean, you're not going to satisfy everybody with that. And I think some of the subject matter in here isn't going to resonate with people as hard. And I think, again, that just comes down to the audience member, what you're exposing yourself to, what you understand about political struggles and what our world is going through. You kind of need to go in there with a little bit of knowledge for everything to click with you. Otherwise, some of this might seem a bit far-fetched, but in all reality, they're not too far off. This is a very realistic portrayal compared to something like a History of Evil that we covered just a couple of months ago with very similar themes. This is a very grounded, gritty approach, and it worked for me, but I could easily see it frustrating others. But all those criticisms aside, again, I'm giving this a must see. I absolutely adore this movie. This is easily climbed to right there. I don't think it's going to beat Late Night with the Devil for me. Obviously, my heart is with horror. This is a little bit more realistic horror in a sense, but you guys know what I'm trying to say here. This is definitely one of those films, though, that I'm going to be recommending to people, and I can't wait to see it. I mean, seeing it in IMAX definitely helps, so if you can see this in IMAX, please go do that. I think that's where your best experience is going to be. And yeah, I mean, I'm not joking when I say that I was very impressed with how this all came together. I've heard people say that it's better than Dune. I don't know if I'd go with that, but I think that it is one of those things where, yeah, I'd have to really sit and think about it. I think that Dune and Late Night with the Devil are up there for me for films this year. But it's great. I really, really enjoyed this. I hope you guys go check this out. And yeah, other than that, we got a lot of great stuff up on the channel, folks. Luke just talked about the Maxine trailer. He gives his thoughts and theories on that. And I mean, honestly, I was completely blown away when I sat down and watched the video. I was seeing this, so I did not get to speak my thoughts on the trailer. But don't worry, I will be there to see Maxine, and I will absolutely give my thoughts and opinions then. But Luke does a fantastic job with that video. And yeah, we got a lot of other great reviews and some more to come this week. So stay right here. And yeah, folks, that's going to wrap it up for me. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell. And remember, stay scared.
Do the hard shit, gonna do it live. Cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, gonna slash your ass. 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 Splattercast, gonna slash your ass.